Welcome back to this next video on fund development. You can download the resources to this video by clicking on the link that was emailed to you by Felician Services. In the previous video, we looked at roles and responsibilities of board members and fund development. Today we will explore individual giving with a particular focus on major gift cultivation. Individuals make up 80% of all charitable giving in the United States. As you think about donations to your ministry, are 80% of all gifts from individuals? This is an area that warrants our attention. It all starts with prospect research. What is prospect research? Well, it's a way of learning about our friends and gathering information about the constituents and people who connect to our organization. And prospect research can apply to individuals, to corporations, to foundations. First, we gather information, and then we segment it or organize and group it. And we'll always start by doing research on people that are known to us first, and then we'll look outside the organization. So how does prospect research help? Well, it lets us discover affinities between a particular constituent and our organization and help us make the strongest matches. For example, if we're talking to a donor who used to be a Marine and we've got a board member who used to be a Marine, then maybe there's a possible rapport and we can look at establishing and deepening that connection. Prospect research also helps us when it comes time to rate and review our donors so that in the whole world of our hundreds or thousands of constituents, how can we most precisely target the 15 or 20 or 45 donors who are the likeliest to make a gift to us? Prospect research also helps by giving us talking points as we learn more about a donor. Are they a realtor in Manhattan? Do they go snorkeling in Fiji? This is all anecdotal information that can help a relationship come alive. Is prospect research costly? It doesn't have to be. Much information is available for free on the internet. You can look at realty sources, census data, Facebook and LinkedIn pages, and any number of free sources to gather biographical, even financial information about donor prospects. Sometimes there are opportunities to purchase for a fee other types of prospect research to get a little bit more detailed information, but at this point it's not necessary. There's plenty available online and through known relationships to your organization. Remember, the best kind of prospect research is done face-to-face in a one-on-one relationship. So how does prospect research fit into development? Well, when we've gathered all the financial and biographical information on our donors, and we've organized it, and we've done a little bit of time processing it, then it can help us answer certain questions. First, whom to ask? Who are the likeliest donors to make a gift to our organization? How much to ask? We don't want to leave money on the table, and we don't want to over-ask. We have to base our decision on good information. Who else is in the picture? Is there a spouse, other children? Are there other people involved that we should be aware of? When's the right time to ask, based on a donor's life situation or financial situation? And what kind of gift should we ask for? A cash gift, an in-kind gift, some combination? Good prospect research can help us develop more confidence in having the answers to each of these questions. So where to begin first with prospect research? Well, first, we look at our existing donors. And then we can go a little bit further out into the circle and look at friends or constituents or other organizations or individuals that have a connection to our ministry. And finally, we can look externally and we can have a sense of what's happening in our community and who's on the go that we should be aware of and try to tune into. In terms of looking externally, there are many, many sources we can turn to. We can look at annual reports from other nonprofit organizations. We can look at board rosters from civic associations. We could look at people in our church or other churches. We can read the newspapers and have a sense of particular interests and dynamics with individuals. Now we move from preparation to action, and this is the point when we forge deeper bonds and connections to our donors and maybe even cultivate friendships in the process. We're now moving beyond asking for a gift, as we do through an annual fund, to making our donors co-owners and partners in our success. We're bringing them into our family, in other words. So clearly, before we get into a deep, involved conversation with a donor, we need to make sure we understand our ministry well. We need to understand what our strategic priorities are, what our key program goals are, what our financial needs are, what our sources of revenue are, so that we're in a position to answer questions and be fully informed and prepared to be able to match our particular program needs with donor interests. That's what this relationship is really about. It's a matching process. Now, it's important that we do some prioritizing because we know we don't have enough time and resources to meet everyone that we'd like to talk to. Nor should this be a random process. So board and staff will need to be very strategic about who it is we want to talk to and focus attention around a particular set of individuals. Remember, major gifts are made less frequently than annual fund gifts, and so they warrant more time and attention and a little bit more discernment. But in the end, they tend to be much larger gifts, and it's worth the attention and effort. It's very important also to understand the motivations individuals bring to their giving. Individuals may have a particular religious motivation for making charitable gifts, or they may do it for business reasons, or there may be professional connections to the work of your ministry, or maybe people feel a personal affiliation with the mission and vision of your work. But it's important that we not only understand the general realm of motivations, but particularly what makes our individual donors tick. And how do we do that? Well, by listening to them, by asking questions, by meeting with people face-to-face, or at least having a one-on-one telephone conversation. And sometimes we can get information through surveys, and certainly through small group opportunities, there's a chance to connect and hear from people. But at the end of the day, the key point is we need to listen, because that will help us understand why individuals are involved with our ministry in the first place. As we think about who the best prospects for our ministry are, it's important to look at how frequently individuals or families make gifts to us, how often they come to our programs and events, what kind of loyalty have they displayed to our ministry. Because this will lead us next into the rating and review process. Rating and review helps us answer, do we know what we really know about an individual or a donor? It's a way of assessing all the cumulative information that may be in the heads of our board members and staff. For example, if we're talking about a particular donor, are they a grandparent? Do they have children? Do we know where they vacation? Do we know other organizations they like to support philanthropically? Do we know what their profession is? What do we know about these individuals and their families and their lives? Part of the peer review process involves literally sitting around a table, looking at a list of donor names with board members and staff, and compiling the information that's known. And this is done in a confidential manner, and it's done in a very respectful manner, and we're just looking at factual known information about donors and their lives and interests to find the best possible funding opportunity to our ministry. As part of the peer review process, I've included an attachment for you called the Major Donor Relationship Tree. And this is how it works. As board and staff get together and talk about prospective donors to your organization, you would populate this tree with known information about the donors or the donor prospects. Let's use the example of John and Jane Smith. Well, we know that they have 3 adult children and that they have 2 new grandchildren. And we also learned through our discussion together as a group that one board member knows the Smiths through church and another board member plays golf with John on Sundays. Furthermore, through our discussion, we learned that John has ties to the local Rotary Club and that Jane sits on the library board. What do we know about them professionally? Well, John is a hedge fund manager, and Jane is an orthopedic surgeon. How about hobbies and interests? Well, we happen to know that John likes to play golf, and we also know he's into stamp collecting. And another member of the board says, well, I know Jane pretty well, and she's into gardening, and she loves to go snorkeling. There may be some other bits of information that help fill out our picture of the Smiths. For example, we learn that they own a home in London, and that John plays harmonica in a bluegrass band, and that Jane likes to run marathons. So collectively, all of this information gives us a very full portrait of who the Smiths are gives us good talking points and wonderful areas to explore together with them. At a certain point, it becomes very helpful to meet with donors one-on-one. It's the best way to get to know them and for them to get to know you. It also lets you demonstrate your commitment to the ministry. And all of these factors together are part of the cultivation process. And you can think of cultivation like cultivating a seed in a field. We need to create the right causes and conditions for the seed to grow. We need to nourish it. We need to provide water and sunlight and nutrients in the soil. And it's that same care and feeding to our donor relationships that will let them blossom and grow and be fruitful. There's a spectrum of ways that we can communicate and engage with our donors. And some are very one-sided, but important. We can send emails, we can send appeal letters, we can send newsletters and provide good information that donors want to hear about. But it's very one-sided because we don't have a chance to get feedback back from them. So at a certain point, things need to deepen and evolve, and we need to create opportunities to engage in a two-way conversation with our donors. So through telephone conversations, through small groups, through meeting one-on-one, it's a chance for us to listen, and it's a chance for us to get donor feedback. Whether it's concerns or enthusiasm, we're making donors co-owners in our work by engaging this kind of relationship with them. And finally, it's important that we keep track of how we're managing all the various relationships and connections that can get underway once we begin this process. I've given you a handout that is a contact management form that can help you keep track of all the various steps, whether it's visits or telephone calls or letters being sent to donors, and who's involved in the conversations, and what some of the strategy steps may be to engage with particular donors. Keeping track of this information will help us make sure we're asking for the right amount by the right people at the right time. Coming up next in video 4, we will explore individual giving, solicitation, and stewardship. Individuals comprise 80% of all giving in the United States, and this video will look at the most successful ways for us to solicit gifts and steward relationships. See you then.